friends, it's Mrs. Ross. I'm out in the garden today, and the reason that I'm out in the garden is because I want to take you on a little tour of my garden. So we're going to be doing some reading and writing about nonfiction things. So we're going to look at some nonfiction books about gardens, and we'll compare them to some fiction books about garden. And then we are going to go on a little field trip out into your own yards to see what types of things grow out there. So that's why I'm sitting in my garden today. It's going to be a little shaky because I'm holding the camera myself because we're going to be moving around. But I also have my list paper that's all ready to go so that I can write some things down that grow in my garden just to help me remember, because when we do our nonfiction writing, I want to remember some of the things that I want to write about. So I'm going to turn the camera around and I'm going to take you on a little tour and show you some things in my garden. Like I said, I hope it's not too shaky. Okay, so this right here is called lemon balm, and I love it because if you rub your fingers on it and you smell it, it smells just like lemon. I just love it. I've got some big trees right here. They're hard to get to some of the flowers, but you'll see this little guy right here. Let's see if it'll come into view here. Well, it's a little dark, but that's my lilac, and I love the lilacs. They smell so wonderful. So over here on the back side, this is where I grow lots of my oregano. And oregano, again, is one of those things that you can rub your fingers on, and it just smells so good. Russell's going to help us out again. Hi, Russell. We've got blueberries right here, and I'm hoping that they come back. They are not looking so good right now, but they do have a little bit of green on them. And then on the back side over here, I've got strawberries that are starting. And in this pot that's just like a lot of soil right there, I planted some flowers, little flower seeds, and so they're just starting to come up. So we'll go around here, and I noticed just the other day that somebody has been digging in here. And this is where my potatoes are growing, in these little potato bags, but one of the potatoes got dug up a little bit, so it's sitting toward the top. So as I walk through here, these are all my raspberries. They grow really tall, and then I can pick my own raspberries. Love raspberries, they're one of my favorites. Okay, I'm gonna spin us around here. I'll try not to go too fast. And this is the area of my garden that I just like to plant flowers. So some of them are flowers that come back every year, and some of them are flowers like these little orange ones that I have to plant every single year. Here I've got some flowers that are blooming. It's pretty bright over here, but you can see those bright orange flowers. And then these guys, they're kind of remind me of dandelion tops when dandelions go to seed, and they just have those wispies. You guys, you might remember I came out here and did some planting, and I made a video of the sweet peas. That was about a month ago, and look how tall the sweet peas are now. They look so good. They're going to be growing up that little trellis in no time. Over here in the dirt, I planted a bunch of sunflowers, so I'm hoping that those sunflowers will come up. These red cages that are sitting right here, those are for my tomatoes. It's not quite time to plant tomatoes, but I do have one that I'll show you in just a second. And then over here, this is where I have a lot of my herbs. So I have herbs that go into salads. I have different kinds of parsley, 3 different varieties of chives. And chives, these little guys right here, they're going to open up and have some really pretty purple flowers. And the green parts taste just like onion. So over here, I've got my cilantro. And I'm hoping to get you guys some cilantro seeds. So I'm crossing my fingers that I'm able to get those delivered. But cilantro is one of our favorite things because we like to make pico de gallo and salsa, and so we put that in there. So I'll just kind of turn around here so you can see I've just got some plants down here. These are called hydrangeas. They're beautiful in the summertime, but they don't really have anything to look at right now. So we're going to go around here. Now, this is my area that I've blocked off just a little bit so the dogs don't get all into that spot right there. See that? That's grass that's growing. I just planted it, and I tried to block them off so they won't run through. Over here, I've got my mint plants, and I love chocolate mint. Oh, it's so yummy. I put it in ice cream, and I make sometimes like hot chocolate with the leaves. That's really yummy. And then I'll show you this little guy. This is my tomato plant, and he smells so good. If you just rub one tomato and then smell it, oh, it's just so yummy. And I keep moving this basket around because it's a little bit too cold for tomatoes right now, but I wanted him to be in the sunshine, so I keep on moving him in the sunshine, and then I take him inside at night. Up here, this is kind of fun. I've got hanging baskets, and look what's starting to grow right there. Do you see that red strawberry? It's just starting to grow. So that's part of my deck, and I'm going to move along this way, and I want to show you just one or two more things. This is where I plant my basil, and I broke my rule. I never plant basil until July because it's always too wet and too cold. And look at this plant right there. It's already starting to die. It doesn't look as nice and bushy as these guys, so I hope some of them make it. And I'm going to go around the corner here, and this is where I've got just some little pots of different herbs. This one's called thyme, and this one's called rosemary. This one's more oregano, and so I've got some gardening tools just ready to go in case I want to do a little bit of gardening. And I love the smell of those, but look at the different shapes of the leaves. So those leaves are kind of big. These leaves are teeny tiny. And then look, these look more like needles that you would see on a tree. Those are all different types of herbs. I love to cook with herbs. And then I'm going to spin you around to the other side. This is an area I planted, and I have cilantro in that bottom one. I love cilantro. I told you about that one. This one I'm doing a little experiment. Do you hear all our neighbor dogs? They all like to talk to Cooper and Russell. I did a little experiment because see these little holes right here? Slugs get to those, and they love to eat my spinach, and so I've heard that they don't like to go across copper. So I put some copper pennies in there to see if it would stop those critters from getting in there. And I'm going to swing around to one more place because I have a few more herbs over here. Again, oh, these are the kind of herbs that I love to run my fingers on. This one's an oregano. It smells so good. And this one's a lavender. You can see the beautiful lavender buds that are just starting to form right there. I've got a couple more parsleys and thymes that I like to cook with. And then I just get around to the back side of my yard and Russell playing. And I've got those big bushes that are over here. These are called honeysuckles, and they are so much fun when they start to bloom because they just smell awesome. So, and these guys, these little flowers, those are ones that I just started planting, so they haven't gotten very far yet. And again, we've got holes in our grass over here, so I had to plant some grass seed, and this is where I've got grass seed growing. It's just starting to come up. All right, you guys, I'm going to turn you around again. So that is my garden tour, and we're going to go inside. Actually, you guys first are going to go outside. I want you to take your list. If you don't have that list that I made for you, just get a piece of paper. You're just going to write some things down that you have growing either in your backyard, or maybe it's around your house. Maybe you go on a walk someplace. Things that you see that are growing, because we're going to look at the books about gardens and different things that we can grow in gardens: flowers, plants, vegetables, fruits. And then we're going to do some writing about that. So write on your list, take a little tour right now. Go outside, take a little tour, make sure you have a grown-up with you, or ask permission to go out in the backyard by yourself, and write that list. What do you see? We're going to come back together in just a little bit for the next step. All right, I'll see you guys in a bit. Okay, you guys, I'm still in my garden outside. I'm sitting on my deck, and I've got some of my plants around me. And my list. So if I wanted to write some of the things on my list that I love, I would write lemon balm. Remember I told you that one I love the smell of. I might write raspberries. I might write blueberries. And then I'd have a great list. Oh, remember those herbs I told you about? My thyme that had the little leaves, and I showed you some oregano that has some bigger leaves. Those are things I definitely want to remember. Oh, and I can't forget the strawberry that was growing. That was a good one. So I've got my list ready, and I also wanted to share with you some books. So we were talking about nonfiction books, but one of the easiest ways to think about nonfiction books is to also think about what fiction books are. So I have this book. It's called A Green, Green Garden by Mercer Mayer. And in this book, it's a story about the critter family, and little critter is going to do some helping to plant a garden. Now, this book is on YouTube, so I'm going to put a link down there so that you can find out all of the things that little critter needs to get to in order to make the garden and to get it growing. The seeds that he has to buy, the work that he has to do. Now, we know that this is a fiction story because these little characters, they're not real people. They're more like animals. They're critters, and they talk. So we know that this is a fiction story because of that. It could really happen that there's a family that plants a garden, and so then it could be nonfiction, but we know that it's fiction because of the critter family and because those guys are definitely not real people. Now I wanted to compare that to this book that's called The Little Gardener's Guide. And in this book, I noticed at the beginning of the book it has a table of contents, and it tells us things like how to be a little gardener is going to be on page 4. How to grow alfalfa is going to be on page 42. How to paint your own pots for your garden. That's going to be on page 52. Oftentimes, the nonfiction books have a table of contents, and it'll tell you where to look for something if you're just looking for ideas on specific things. I also noticed in here that it labels different things, like it labels the different parts of a plant, like the leaves and the stems and the roots. This gives us good information about a story. So again, nonfiction. I also wanted to share this one with you. This one's about a boy who goes out and he finds an old dreary place, and he decides that he wants to make it into a really nice, beautiful place. And so the boy tries to find some little seed starts and some seedlings, and he takes care of it all through the winter. Again, I'm going to link this story on YouTube so that you're able to find it. But this is a fiction story. This is a story that the author made up, and the author wanted to tell us a made-up story about what you could do with beautiful plants and how they can spread and how it can spread joy and happiness to other people. It's a made-up story that the author wanted to share. So this one's called The Curious Garden. That one's fiction, remember. And then I have another one right here called Vegetable Gardens, and this one is by Scholastic. Scholastic has been really nice, and they've given teachers permission to read the books. So I'm going to show you a few pages in here. We won't do the whole thing, but it's called Vegetable Gardens. It says vegetable gardens grow from seeds. Now I'm going to try to share some seeds with you guys. I'm going to try to give you some cilantro seeds. Cilantro is an herb, but it grows kind of the same way that vegetables would, from seed. Plant the seeds in the garden and water them every day. The plants start to grow. This reminds me of where my sweet peas were. Remember I showed you the sweet peas that are out there? It really reminds me because they're just about that big. And I won't show you, read everything on here, but it shows you some different parts of the vegetable plant. And you know what? I noticed that with those labels, that's what we do sometimes in science. So that's what we're going to be doing also in some of our nonfiction writing. It says carrots are the roots of the carrot plant. You pull them up and wash them off. And then it talks about some celery It goes into peas. And at the very end of the book, I love this part. A lot of nonfiction books will do this. It'll say, ask yourself some of these questions. Do vegetables grow from seeds? Can you name the 4 different parts of a vegetable plant? Do carrots grow underground? What's inside of a pea pod? So nonfiction books, again, are true information that the author is giving us about specific topics. This one's going to be about vegetable gardens. Now, you guys, we've finished step 1. We went on a little tour of my garden, and then you guys were supposed to go out and take your list and write some things down that are in your garden. Now, the second part that we were going to do is I was going to share some fiction and nonfiction books. This might be another great time to pause, and you can go look some of these books. Some of the fiction books actually are the ones that are going to be on YouTube, and I'll put those links. Might be a good time to watch some of those stories from the fiction books and try to think about how are they different from the nonfiction books that we talked about, and how does the nonfiction give us true information. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to come back together. We're going to do some writing. So if you need a break right now, this is a great time to take a break, and we'll come back and we'll do the writing next. Okay, see you in a bit. Okay, you guys, I'm staying out in the garden because we're kind of going with our garden theme right now. And I already started my writing a little bit. Russell always likes to just come over and say hi. So I have started my writing and I started my pictures. And you might remember that when we went on the garden tour, I have a lot of herbs in my garden. Now you might find that you have a lot of trees in your area. You might have a lot of bushes that have little flowers on them. So you're just going to write about what you have. Cooper's going to join us too. This is what I have in my garden. So I had some thyme, so I drew a picture of a stem with some tiny little leaves on it, and I wrote on here small leaf, and I labeled it thyme. I knew what it was called, so I could label it by the scientific name. This one, I wrote that these are just little sprouts, and remember how I told you that I had some seeds that I planted in the dirt, and that was my cilantro. And I was able to run to school and get you guys a little packet. Each kindergartner has a little packet of cilantro seeds, and I put instructions for how you're going to plant those. So you'll get to plant your own cilantro too. This big pot that I've got sitting right here, I forgot to show you, that one's also got cilantro in it. So lots of different ways to plant cilantro. It can be in a garden, it can be in a pot, all sorts of different things. Now, I just drew on that one, I drew the teeny tiny little seeds down there, and I drew the little shoot that's coming up and an itty bitty little leaf that's coming off the top. And then you might remember that I had my big lemon balm plant, and so that one had some big leaves. So I labeled that big leaves, and I wrote lemon balm right there. And I started by saying, I have a garden, I grow herbs. Now, that tells you a little bit about what I'm going to write about, but now I've got to think about what kind of nonfiction, true information can I give to you as my reader. I could tell you about the size of the leaves. That's something that I put in here, that thyme has small leaves and lemon balm has big leaves. And my sprouts have teeny tiny little leaves. So that's another thing that I could put in there. I have a garden, I grow herbs. Now my first thing that I might want to put is thyme has small leaves. So I'm going to write that one. Thyme has, and don't forget we're putting those spaces between our words, small leaves. And then my next sentence I was going to put that lemon balm has big leaves. Lemon. And remember, as you're writing, your words don't have to be spelled perfectly. You're just going to write the sounds that you hear. And lemon balm is a name, so I'm going to make it the second word capital too. Lemon balm has big leaves. Ooh, you know what else I could put there? I could say that it smells like lemon. That would be a good one. It's kind of hard to describe what thyme smells like. You have to just kind of smell it for yourself, but I would have a hard time describing that. But lemon balm, I would be able to say, has definitely a lemony smell. And then I can say cilantro. I think I'm going to call it cilantro sprouts because we haven't grown the cilantro to be really big and tall. Right now they just have some teeny tiny little leaves on them. So I'm going to say cilantro sprouts have teeny tiny leaves. And that gives us some good information. So yes, we know I have a garden, we know I have herbs, but the information part that I'm telling you is the size of the leaves, that the thyme has the small leaves, that the lemon balm has the big leaves. You might draw pictures of trees that are in your area, and you might draw needles on some kinds of trees and leaves on other kinds of trees. You might have red leaves on one and green leaves on another. You might find plants as you go for a walk that have all different colors and shapes and sizes of flowers. Those are all things that you might write about. They're observations that you can make, and you can tell us the information. I'm not going to put in this writing things like lemon balm smells good or I love thyme, because that's not really a fact that I'm telling you that for you to learn about the thing that I'm showing you about. So I want you to just think about telling us information, telling us facts, things that you want us to know about things that you have observed either in your yard or your neighborhood or places around you that you've taken a walk. So I'm going to finish up my writing and then I'll take a quick picture so you can see what it looks like. Thanks for coming on the garden tour today. I hope you guys have fun in your garden, and I really hope you enjoy the cilantro seeds and get a chance to plant those in your garden, even if it's just in a little pot like mine. See you guys later. Okay, friends, this week you have a couple jobs to do in writing. Walk around outside and then write about some of the things that are growing. It could be trees or plants or things that you put in your garden. Another thing that you could do is write about things that family members do for you. So if mom helps you get your breakfast, helps you brush your hair, write about some of those things that family members do for you. What are their jobs? You could also ask them what the job is that they go to work. Ask a grown-up about some things that they do when they're at work and write about that. Another thing is that you could do is investigate a favorite food. Do you love applesauce? You could learn how it's made. What do you notice about a different type of food? What do you want to write about? Think about some non-fiction things that you could write about this week that tell facts about things that you see, hear, taste, smell. Write about those things this week. Keep trying to write more than one sentence, but this week your stories aren't going to have a beginning and an end, because this week it's going to be something that is true and some true facts. Okay, have fun.